Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome if you're new. Hi, my name is Shani, I'm 25 and I live and work in London as a consultant. As you can see from the title of this video, I am sharing today my testimony. As you probably can see as well, I am in a new place, which is so amazing. The Lord is so faithful and He literally delivered me from the worst situation that I was in. I decided to share this testimony because I have faith that this will encourage someone, that this will give hope to someone's situation. This is super fresh. It just happened. It all happened so quickly. This video is gonna be long, so take a drink. Let's get into it because the Lord is so faithful, y'all. Like he's so good. He's so good. He's so faithful. He's so intentional. His timing is so perfect. And if you just sit and trust him, everything will fall into places. And this testimony is literally living proof of that. Let's get into the video. If you've seen my previous videos, you'd know that when I moved back to London last year after everything with COVID and after securing my grad job, the Lord gave me a beautiful house in a beautiful neighborhood with such an amazing housemates. My room was so big. It was within a budget. Back then, this was my blessing, but it was my answered prayer back then. But you know, sometimes the blessing can turn into a curse, and this is when it's time for you to go. So this is what happened with me. So this room was beautiful. At the beginning, I was very peaceful there until one day last year when the property owner decided to start coming to the house very often. And when I rented the room initially, I was told that the property owner comes like here and there, but he travels a lot and he uses his room upstairs mostly as an office. And I was like, yeah, that's fine, like he surely is not going to be around. Turns out that as soon as I moved in, he started coming like every single day. I didn't thought anything of it. I just kept peace with him, like he was sort of like one of the housemates in a way, until one day when he literally, like, he was just so rude and so disrespectful. I started not feeling comfortable around him anymore. And mind you, like this man is like 35-ish, so mid-30s, and I'm 25, and like obviously like in my spirit I did not feel comfortable being around him. After that encounter where he sort of like yelled at me for something that happened without him actually knowing what happened, I started not feeling comfortable and I like started avoiding him, because throughout the day he used to spend time in the house, and if I hear him that he's in the kitchen, I'll try not to go in the kitchen then, and things like that. And it was bearable, it was manageable, because it wasn't just me in the house, it was like 4 other tenants. However, after Christmas, so I went away back home for the Christmas month, and then I came back in the house, and when I came back in the house, guess what? He decided to move in permanently. He decided to live in the house, and the worst thing of all is he didn't notified anyone. He literally just moved in. And so one day I just bumped into him in the kitchen, and I was like, are you living here now? And he's like, yeah, it's my house, right? And I was thinking to myself, it is, but you could sort of like notify the people they've decided to move in permanently. No, he did not. And I was like, okay, cool, right? But this brought a new layer of precaution for me, because at this moment, like, I didn't feel safe throughout the evenings either. When I saw him, because he was like in and out of the house throughout the day, when I saw him coming in the house, I immediately felt anxiety. When I saw him leaving and the house was without him, I felt anxiety that he could come back at any second. And it reached to the point where I literally felt like hostage in this house. This was the period between February, like January to February, right? And I remember like there were moments where in my spirit, like on like spiritual basis, like I literally felt like how if I'm sort of like dressed up, going out with my friends, I'm wearing like a dress or something like that, I had to cover up in order to go to the bathroom. If he was in the kitchen, I had to avoid him. Or if I had to really go, because in order for me to use the bathroom, I had to go through the kitchen. If he was in the kitchen, I had to sort of like say something to him or like bump into him, and there was no way of avoiding him. So it was too much. So every time I was sort of like wanting to go to the bathroom, I was like, okay, I need to put my rope on, I need to put like something on. Like I did not feel comfortable. And there were instances where I previously had conversations with him, and it's just like the way that he was looking at me, it was not right, and it could have not been anything. He might have not had these intentions, but in my spirit and how I felt, it was like it wasn't right. And that's why this feeling of needing to cover up came about. So it was like constant anxiety when he was in the house, when he was not in the house, and it was so bad. But the Lord is so graceful, guys. Like he's so good, and I made friends friends with one of the guys in the house. So in the house there were like 5 people living. So me, Jose, which is my housemate, who was my housemate, and 2 other girls. So, and the landlord, of course. So he was sort of like the only boy, and we got along with him so well, developed a good friendship. And when he was in the house, I felt safe. I was like, okay, I feel comfortable to go to the kitchen, to go to the bathroom with no problems. And if I heard him that he was in the kitchen, I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go and like make my food whilst he's there, right? But even that was sort of like, it's not healthy living conditions, isn't it? Spring comes around, we receive an email from the property manager, who's actually the brother of the landlord. We get an email of him saying, sorry guys, please don't touch the gas, because we have like electric thermometer, and we can sort of like adjust the heating level. And he was like, don't touch the thermometer guys, because gas prices have gone so up and we can't keep up with everything. If you continue to do that, we have to increase the rent. I didn't thought anything of that email, right? But what they did the following week is they completely turned off the heating. I remember it was April. It was one of the coldest days in the month. Like April here in the UK, usually Aprils are very cold. He turned off the heating for the whole day. And I remember like I was working from home that day, and he did not turn on the heating. And mind you, a little bit of background on my room. Although it's a beautiful big room, which is a blessing and a curse at the same time, this room, first of all, is so difficult to warm up because it's so big. Second of all, it's north facing, so I never ever get a beam of sunlight. It could be 35 degrees outside and I'll be still wearing a jacket in my room. This is how cold it was all the time. So imagine the winter, it would be like even colder. Like I always wore like winter blankets on and things like that. And I have a massive windows. My desk was literally like opposite the windows, and I could feel the wind literally going through the windows. And because it was so cold that day, he did not turn on the heating. It was probably like 1 or 2 degrees in my room. And I remember like I was wearing like a dressing gown, I was wearing like a beanie, like I was flipping cold, like cold. And of course he did not allow electric heaters because prices. I was freezing, and I called the property manager, his brother, and I said, look, I'm so cold, can you please come and turn on the heating, or like find a way around it, because I'm cold, you know, like this is not reasonable. And he came around and he was like, oh yeah, it's a bit chilly. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like this room is flipping freezing. Whilst his brother is in my room, the other one, the one who lives in the house, comes, because he was out somewhere, he comes in and he goes to the kitchen, and I go and I'm trying to have a civil conversation with him, and I'm trying to understand where he's standing and whether this will change in the future, or whether this is something that he's just sort of like doing for right now. He saw me with all of my layers because I was so cold, and he was like, oh Shani, I think you're over exaggerating. When I was younger, my dad just told me to put another jacket on if I was cold. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm not asking you to have the heating like 24/7. I'm asking you for normal living conditions, because at that point it was like 1 degree in my room. I'm not even kidding, it was so cold. I'll never forget that day. And I think this is when I caught, I don't know if it was COVID or some sort of a cold. Next day I remember I was having paracetamol, I was feeling so ill, I was having fever, like it was so bad. Nothing, he didn't do anything. And I was like, okay, one day is fine. Next day, same thing. I literally had to warm up with hair dryer, guys. I was paying crazy amounts of money for this room, and I had to warm up with a hair dryer. Like, these people, they need to be reported. They need to be reported. So I leave for Bulgaria, come back, and I think in this season when he was sort of like stopping the heating, and in my heart, it's like the Lord told me, you have to go away from here. Like, this will not change. You know, it's time for you to go. I didn't want it to, because I was so happy in the house and I was getting along with my housemates. And this was also a time when I was witnessing to my friend Jose, and this was quite special for me. I wasn't like ready to leave yet. And mind you, like throughout the whole time, I'm feeling this anxiety, I'm feeling this constant pressure, I don't feel at peace in the house. It's a spiritual level. It's like everything was on a spiritual level. I don't know what demons were in the house, but I felt spiritual oppression. It was just so bad, so bad. So spring came around, I left for Bulgaria, came back home. It was the summer, it was June, it was warm, it was bearable, you know, like we didn't have these crazy cold temperatures anymore. And I was like, you know, things are good, things are coming along. I go into the kitchen, it was so dirty, and mind you, when I first moved in, there was a cleaner who used to come every 2 weeks. Guess what? When he moved at Christmas, he removed the cleaner, because guess what? It was too expensive for the cleaner to be there. And mind you, the landlord was the one who was making the most mess. It was so disgusting. Like, was the one that was making the most mess. Like, how could that be? Like, it's your property, you're the one who who were supposed to set up an example, and he was the one who was making the most mess. I come back from Bulgaria, and like at that point, I've decided in my heart it's time for me to move out. It's time for me to start looking for places. And I knew that he will not, like, he won't change the heating situation because he's trying to save up on money. So I was like, it's time for me to start looking for places. And I started looking for places, and I find this beautiful room, literally the same size as my room, the opposite house. And I was like, oh, this is it. That's my place. It looks amazing. I love it. It's close to me. Everything looks amazing. Everything is fine. And I start messaging to the girls. Nobody responds to me. And I was like, okay, maybe this will be more difficult than I thought. I started looking for other places in the area because I really like the area and I really wanted to stay there. And I secured a few viewings because like finding a place in London, it's like so difficult. Securing a viewing is difficult. So I secured, I remember, 2 viewings over the month of June, and none of them were good. And I was like everything. Like I remember like reaching out to so many people, trying to arrange viewings, and nobody was responding to my messages. And I remember at the time I was reading Nehemiah, and in Nehemiah, like I'll pop the verse right here, but it says that in 3 days Nehemiah will go to the wall and he'll do something, or in 3 days he's gonna. And these 3 days just stood out to me because this for me was a season where I was praying for the room. I was praying for a place, and it's like the Lord was telling me in 3 days I'm going to make it. I was like, Lord, like when and how are you gonna make it for me? Like there is literally no way it's possible because I'm running out of time. I'm leaving for Bulgaria in like literally like 4 weeks. There is no time for me to find. Praying, I was like, Lord, please provide for me, please provide. And nothing. I go to these viewings, nothing. It's either the rooms are too small, they're not the right size, they're not the right positioning, they're too much. Like there was always something that was not right about these rooms. So I go to Bulgaria, but one thing that happened just before I left for Bulgaria, I saw the landlord in the kitchen, and I just say hi and bye. Like I don't engage in conversation because it just doesn't make me feel comfortable. But this time there was something different. I was like, hi, how are you? It's been a while, I haven't seen you in ages. And he's like, yeah, good, how are you? You happy with the room? In that moment, started talking about God, and I witnessed to him. Although he was someone that didn't make me feel comfortable and gave me constant anxiety, and I think the Lord was waiting for this to happen, for me to witness to him in order to unlock my blessing and unlock my deliverance. I was wondering, I was like, Lord, like I've been praying so much, like I need to get out of the house. I feel so uncomfortable. I feel so not at peace. I feel like I feared for my safety. Like I'll be honest with you, I feared for my safety because this man that lived in the house, like I think he had like anger issues. I've seen his passive aggressiveness. July came around, I went to Bulgaria. Actually, just before I came back, I'm messaging Jose, my housemate, and I'm like, and him like, how are you? He's like, good. And he sends me a screenshot of an email that he just received from them, from the manager and the owner, and they're literally kicking him out. They did not provide any explanation why they're kicking him out. Like they literally said, Jose, you have to leave by the 30th of August, and that's it. And he sent back an email. He said like, why? Like what? Like, and he's been in the house for 3 years. He's the most reliable person ever. He's like clean. He cleans after himself. He cleans after other people. Like he's like the person that I want to have as a tenant, like always paying on time, like always doing everything. They're literally kicking him out without a reason. As soon as I saw this, and also in the email they said there will be another rent increase in October and January, and I was like, okay, that's the peak. Now it's time for me to go, because if Jose is leaving, I cannot stay a single second in the house, because Jose is sort of like, he was my protection, my shield of protection in the house. And if he was away, I just could not stay in the house a single moment. And when I said to my mom that they're kicking him out, essentially they gave him a notice, my mom said, you are not staying in the house a single second after Jose. And that was the thing that sort of like drove me. And I came back from England, we had a chat with Jose, and we sort of like started looking for places, because I could not stay in the house, he could not stay in the house, and it was time for both of us to. So I popped on Spare Room. Spare Room is like a website for like rooms for rent and stuff like that, and I started looking for places. I initially started looking for places in my area. Guys, like, could you now, there was like no after no after no. Right, so I turned on all of my notifications on Spare Room. I was like, it's peak, I need to get out of here, I cannot stay here another day. Came back to UK like 3 weeks or something like that, and I was hoping that during that time I could also move out. So I didn't have much time to look for places. I literally had like 3 weeks. I'm on Spare Room, I'm looking for ads all the time. I have my instant alerts on, I have everything on. Guys, Like, this was a season where I was praying every day. I was literally like surrendering to the Lord, praying and praying and praying and hoping for deliverance, because at that point in that house I felt like a hostage. I was scared to go to the kitchen, I was scared to go to the bathroom, I was anxious from feeling that he's walking through the door, and I was like, Lord, like when he's in the house, like I felt like a hostage. My whole spirit, like I did not have freedom, I did not have anything. It was just so bad, and I was like, please get me out of here. But nothing was happening, guys. Like, there were rooms coming up in my area, but nothing was coming up that was nice. Even like when I find something that's okay, sort of I can put up with that, I message the person, nobody responds. I probably messaged like 30-40 people and nobody responded to my messages. I was part of Christian Facebook groups, I was part of Gumtree, I'm part of Spare Room, I had my instant alerts at every single avenue. I even like, we have at work, we have like a forum for sort of like people who have like living situations or like are selling things, like a random group. Like, and I made a post and I was like, please, if somebody is giving a room for rent, please let me know. Nothing. Like, there was a closed door from every single avenue that I took. Every single avenue was like closed door after closed door. And I was like, Lord, it almost felt in that season that he was not with me. I knew that he was with me, but it did not feel like. And I had to make the conscious choice to trust him, even though I could not feel or see him, and just trust that he's in control, because I was getting so many closed doors. I reached out to my friend Tony. So girl, if you're watching this, I love you for your faith. And I shared with her that, you know, like I just asked her to pray for me, because like it was a tough season for me, like spiritually. She sent me a little like card and she said like, your prayer request is on my card and I'll be praying for you every single day. And at that point I did not have faith to believe for this for myself, because I saw the closed doors, I saw the difficulties, I saw that there was no way out. And when I saw that she put this in the card, and when I saw that she started believing for this with me and for me, I was able to hop on her faith. And I had faith because she had faith for me. Like, this is the importance of community, guys. Like, it's so vital to have the community. And that happens, and I'm constantly like looking for places in my area. Nothing comes up. It felt like a slap. Like, genuinely felt like a slap, and I was so disheartened. I remember like going out with my friend, and I was like telling her about everything that's happening, how disheartened I am. And I remember like we were in the area where I am living now, and we were in the park nearby, and I was like, girl, like I just wish I could just live here, you know. And this area is like so far away from where I was. And we just sat down in the park. Like, I'll insert a photo here where we were. We sat down in the park and we just prayed for a room in this area, which was so random. And I remember like I updated my search results, and I was like, when I live like in different area of London, and I put 40 minutes within my workplace, and different rooms within sort of like 40 minutes within my, I got so many different instant alerts for so many different rooms, like in West London, East London, South, like North, like anywhere, like literally anywhere. I was no longer restricted to this little area, but I had literally London, you know. And I was like, Lord, I'm making myself available to you. Like, take me wherever you want, Lord. Like, you know what I need, so I'm just giving you, I'm making myself available for you, basically. On that Monday, I got so many different alerts for different rooms. And the Tuesday, I get another alert for a room in East London. And I'm like, this looks nice. I messaged the lady because I got the notification, and I messaged her ASAP. And at that moment, I was like, if I like the room, if it's within my budget, I'm just gonna message. Like, I'm not even gonna think about it so much, because like I didn't have the time to think about it so much, because when I think about it too much, I try to find like things that I don't like and justify why I don't like it. So I was like, no, the room is nice, it's within my budget, I'm just gonna message. So I messaged her. The landlord immediately responds to me. We arranged the viewing for the Wednesday. Wednesday comes around, and I messaged the lady and I'm like, hi, are we still meeting for the viewing? And she was like, yeah, we're still meeting 7:15. And I said, yeah, sure, that works for me. So I start making my way from my house of North London to East London. And I remember like on the way, I remember like feeling not well, almost felt sick. And I was like, I know that this is not my room. Like, I just know, but why am I wasting even my time? I was thinking to myself, why am I even wasting my time? I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go and see what it's like and see what it's all about. So I finally made my way here, and I meet the girl. So actually didn't meet the landlord, I met the girl that I'm taking the room over from. And she was like the sweetest person ever. She was so joyful and and she shows me the room, and the room is like such a nice little place, much smaller than my other one. I did not want a big room, and I'll go into that later. But it was beautiful sized room. It's a flat, clean flat with all girls, no living landlords, within my budget. I was like, wow, this sounds actually like, I can't initially find anything that worries. I leave the viewing, and I'm confused and I'm scared. And I'm scared because I actually did like the room and I did like the place and I didn't know what to do. I drop a note to my friend Velma. Velms, if you're watching this, girl, I love you so much. Like, there were so many people that were like standing behind me and praying for me and walking this with me. So Velma is literally one of a very good faithful friend of mine from uni, and she's always been like my older sister. Turns out Velma lives literally like the road next door. Like, God is faithful. Like, so she drops me her postcode and I'm literally like a minute away from her, and she's like, come to mine. So I go to her house and I start telling her what I've experienced and what I've been through, and I tell her the whole story with the landlord in my current house that's happening. She's like, if I were you, I'll take this. Like, genuinely, like, I'll just take it. Oh, like, I don't know, I need to pray about it. So I went back home and I started praying about it and started like trusting to the Lord. And I'm like, Lord, like, in the world it all looks fine. This room, every single angle is just perfect, but I don't have this internal peace. Something was off, something was off, and I couldn't put a finger on what it was. Praying about it, keep on leaning to the Lord, keep on thinking about it. And I was like, the only reason that like not going for it, I think it's the area. I think it's because it's too far away from where I am right now. It's too far away from everything that I know. It's too far away from everything that I'm familiar with. And I was scared. I was scared that, you know, I'll move away from everything familiar. And I started thinking, praying about it, and Thursday came around. And mind you, like, that evening on Wednesday after the viewing, I dropped a note to the girl and I said, I really like the room, but I need to think about it. And she said, if you really liked it, put a deposit right now because this room is gonna go so quick. But I was like, I'm not going to allow any rush or haste. I'm just going to wait on the Lord, and if this room is for me, it's gonna stay for me. The Lord is gonna keep and protect this room for me. Thursday comes around and I arranged a call with the landlord because for me it was very important to understand if there will be a rent increase and how this will be managed. Like, in my heart of hearts on Thursday morning, last Thursday, I almost knew that this is not my room because I did not have God's peace. So on Thursday, even though I don't have peace and I know that this is not my room, I'm just gonna have this call with the landlord and find out a bit more and see what's gonna happen. And I said to the Lord, if this is your will for me and if you want me to be there, give me your peace after this call and like help this call answer my hesitation. So I'm having the call with the landlord and we're having the conversation. He's like, I'm not increasing the rent, you know, this is not something that I do, it's a principle of mine. It's like, we can put this in writing so if you're more comfortable with it, but we're not going to increase your rent. And we're talking about a lot of other things. He was telling me about the other housemates and how he's managing other properties in the area as well and things like that. And by the end of it, he asks me, so Shaney, where are you from? I said, oh, like, you know, originally I'm from Bulgaria, but I've been in the UK for 6 years. And he's like, can you guess where I'm from? And I said, I don't know. He said, I'm your neighbor. And I was like, oh. And he said, yeah, I'm your neighbor. I live 10 minutes away from the border. And he's like, I'm from Macedonia. And he starts talking in Bulgarian to me. That was it. I think this was like the Lord. This was literally the Lord. Like, honestly, like, this was him telling me, this is your place. But me being me, I want you to double check everything. I was like, okay, Lord, I hear you, I see you. And now I receive the peace of the Lord. After that call, after the conversation, after all of the clarifications, and the fact that he's Bulgarian, I received the clarification and I got the peace. I got God's peace, but I was scared of the change. So I hung up with the landlord and I was so scared that this is my room and that I need to go through all of this massive change. I was so I was in the office on that day, and so I have a mentor at work, and he's such a funny guy. He's such an incredible mentor, and I know that he recently moved to the area where I'm, and I went to him. He knows about my situation with the landlord, that he stopped there, the old landlord, and I was like, look, I found this room, it's in that area. How is your life in the area? You know, like, is it like, are you happy there? Like, what's the life like and stuff? And he's like, Shani, is the best decision I've ever made. Like, I told him that I'm scared because I'm moving from north to east, and he said, when I moved from south to east, it was scary for me, but trust me, I have not made a better decision. Like, that was the best decision I've ever made in my whole life. It's almost at that moment the Lord was telling me, who else do you need to confirm this for you? And then I remembered that when I was in Bulgaria, I had a chat with my pastors back in my home church, and because we're having a chat about God's will, and I asked her, like, how do you know God's will for your life? And she said, you have arrangement of circumstances. And that really, the Holy Spirit just reminded me of that. Everything fell into place when it comes to that room, and that's how I knew it was God's will, because that room was so easy for me to commute to work. It's within my budget. The landlord is super nice, super good location, new area of London, much more lively, much more like I'm experiencing the city life, because before I was in, it felt like I'm in the countryside. Now I'm like in the city. Like you feel like you're in the city. It's a brand new vibe. I have my friend Velma near me. I have one of the most biggest shopping centers in London on my doorstep. I have my gym literally like next door. Like everything is perfect. The room is perfect. Everything, the flat, all girls, like everything just aligned so perfect. And as I said, like, you know, it's God's will when everything falls into place, and when you have peace, God is faithful. Like he'll give you the choice to make the decision. And I was like, that's it. I made the decision. I was confirmed with this landlord. I said, I'm taking the room. I did it. I took the room, and it was like the best decision I've ever made. Genuinely, it was like the best decision I've ever made. But this is where the second part of the story comes. That week was literally torturous in my old house because I was viewing houses. I found my house. I had to notify them that I'm leaving. In my heart of hearts, that I have issues with leaving. I did not feel safe in my house. I was afraid for my safety. I was afraid for my well-being. I was living in an anxiety, constant physical state was not good because my mental state was so messed up, and I was so anxious all the time. I couldn't eat properly. I was like I had so much fear, so much anxiety, and for the whole week, as I said, feeling like a hostage. But this was like 100% now, like 100%. And on the Friday, I had to notify them that I'm leaving. I gave them my notice and I said, look, I'm leaving. And they said, oh, we're keeping the deposit anyways because you haven't given us the notice, and also you have to pay for the next month's rent. So these are almost £1,000 that I had to pay them for 3 days because my due rent was on the 18th and I wanted to move out on the 20th. Like even 2 days, they're like, you need to pay the whole. And I was like, they did not give me any choice. They put me in the worst situation ever. And I was, at that point, I literally had a breakdown because I had so much fear in the house. I had so much anxiety in the house. These men, they're unpredictable. Like you don't know what they're gonna do to you. And obviously, like I'm a single girl in like the big city, like, and they take advantage of that. I was just crying and I was like, Lord, please get me out of here. And I reached out to my friend Moni and her family. And girl, if you're watching this, I love you big time. And your family, you guys are amazing. Like you, honestly, like, and because they're in Bulgaria, they are not here, so they couldn't sort of like give me a hand or like genuinely, like this was like that weekend, last weekend, it was, I felt like I was alone in the whole world. I felt so disheartened, and I feel like they're literally going to kick me out of here in the middle of the night or something. I don't know what they're capable of. So the Lord is so faithful, and I reached out to one of my friends, and he's a lawyer, and I told him about the whole situation, what's happening, and he's like, Shani, it's okay, like you've paid for your rent. They do not have the right to kick you out or to do anything. You just have to move out this weekend. We had a long chat about it, and in my heart of hearts, I was like, I'm moving out. And it just, after that chat, I just had so much peace. But the Lord used, it's just like he did not leave me. The Lord, he did not leave me for one single second. And I just needed emotional support in that season, spiritual and emotional support because I felt like I was in the battleground. Like I felt like I was literally fighting against these demons and principalities, and it's not, it was literally the demon behind the person. I'm talking about the landlord. I remember that night, so last Friday evening, it was like the worst night of my life. I did not sleep well. I did not have peace. So I started packing on Saturday, spent the whole day from morning to the evening packing everything, sorting through my stuff. I managed to pack everything, like, or 80% of my stuff on the Saturday. I arranged the transport, and the Lord was so faithful in that because we have like a Bulgarians in London Facebook group, and I just drop a note there in the hopes that someone would respond. And guys, somebody gets in touch with me and they're like, hi, I can help. I have a big white bus and I can help. So Sunday rolls around, I packed everything. I was ready to go. On Sunday, the landlord was not in the house, so I had a chance to add peace, clean everything, prepare everything. Yeah, I started moving out of the house, and I was like 80% moved out, and everything was in the bus when he came back in the house. And he looked so angry and so passively aggressive. He did not say anything, but I had peace because obviously I wasn't alone. I was with the man who was helping me move my things, and that man, it was an angel. He was an angel. Like, he was such a kind man. He helped me with, I had like some furniture and like office chairs and like stuff, like, guys, like if you see my story up over here, I had a lot of stuff, and this man, like, he helped me with moving everything, putting it into the bus. I was leaving, I locked my room, I cleaned everything, prepared everything, I locked my room, and I was on my way to the kitchen to leave the key in the cupboard for the property manager that I actually rented the room from. He was like, why have you locked the door? And I was like, because, you know, I prepared the room and I'm leaving the keys for the property manager. He was like, you can leave the keys to me. And I was like, okay. So I took a photo whilst I'm giving him the keys, and I just left. Guys, after I left, I felt so free. I don't know, I can't even explain. I just felt freedom. I just felt release. I just felt like over, you know, it's over. Like, these people don't have control over my life anymore. These people, I've never seen them in my life ever again. Like, so I arrived at my place and literally greeted by the girl that I'm taking the room from. She's like, hi Shani, welcome, happy moving day. And honestly, she was the sweetest person ever. She was here for emotional support, because at that moment, this is what I needed. I needed to have emotional support. And this girl, she felt like a family to me. Described, like, you know, when you meet people and just bond with them. She was like the second angel that the Lord sent me. Like, she gave me like a little like sweet, almost felt like the Lord was telling me, welcome home, it's over, you know, like, welcome home. And timing wise, it was perfect, because literally literally the day the Lord had prepared everything. If I had found this room like 1 or 2 days later, I would have entered my other rent and they would have requested another payment out of me for not living for the next month. But the Lord literally ordained things to fall into place so that I can step into this new season. Honestly, guys, I've like every single day I just sit here and I just praise the Lord for what he brought me out of, because I felt like I was a slave in that house. Like, spiritually, my spirit was like compressed, like such an unhealthy environment. It was so anxiously inducing. It was like this house, it was like, no, it was so bad. It was so bad. But the Lord is our provider. He's the one who's fighting our battles. He's the one who's standing with us. Look, guys, like, my room right now, I've never been happier. Like, yeah, it's a smaller room, but this is what I wanted. I wanted a smaller, cuter room, and the Lord, he gave me everything that I asked for and more. Like, this room is west facing, which means that I see the sun when it's setting down. So in the afternoons, I get all of the sun. Throughout the day, I have nice light coming in. I'm on the second floor, which I've always wanted to be on the second floor, because I was so annoyed when I had to like pull up the curtains in the evenings because people are passing down the street and stuff like that. Now on the second floor, I literally can see the city of London outside my window, which is mad. I'm literally in the heart of London. It's so beautiful. I'm experiencing my city of London life. My friend Velma lives like 5 minutes away from me. The room is within a budget. It's so warm. I'm warm. I have so much storage I can fit everything right now here. All of my things, guys. I'm so happy here. Oh, God knows, he knows I hate throwing the bin away. I hate that, because usually in the houses here in England, like, you have a bin in the kitchen. This flat does not have a bin, but everybody takes their rubbish like a little bag, and you literally throw the rubbish as you go down this vault, essentially. And it's so cool, which means I don't have to throw a big bin out, which is incredible. He literally thought about every single step of the way, giving me people to pray for me and to stand with me in prayer, providing for me someone to help me with my things, having this girl that I took the room from being so nice, and the fact that we bonded. Like, he is so faithful. And yes, I did not have people with me to support me physically, but the Lord provided everything. And in seasons like this, when you go through battles like this, usually you go through these battles alone. The Lord is just showing himself faithful in that, proving you that he doesn't need to have any one of your friends or family to be around to help, because he's your only helper, because he's the only one who you need. And I genuinely experienced that, and it's like, it's a whole new level of faith and like trust in his timing, in his ways. And in the moments where you can't feel him, when you can't see him, when you get these closed doors, when you get these slaps, he is there working behind the scenes. And all you have to do is continue trusting him, continue leaning on him, continue walking with him. And when everything seems impossible, remember that everything is possible for him. In that moment when I was so scared last weekend, like Friday through Sunday, the Lord was talking to me through Joshua. In Joshua, like, it says, like, be of good courage, like, your enemies, they cannot get to you. I'm fighting your battles, like, I'm standing with you. And he was literally talking to me with these verses, like, he was talking to my spirit, he was encouraging my spirit, and he gave me peace. And I was like, Lord, you're faithful. I don't need anybody else. Like, I know that you're standing with me in this season. I know that you're with me right here, and I can walk through all of that. He is so faithful. He's so good. He's so kind. I'm all moved in now. I love this place. The flat is so clean. I live in a flat for the first time. I've never lived in a flat in UK, but it's so nice. And I'm so happy. Genuinely, like, I could not have prayed or wanted for anything better than that. Everything is perfect, and the Lord is faithful, and his provisions are beautiful. And because he proved himself so faithful in that situation, this like springs up my faith for all of the other things that I believe the Lord to deliver at the right time, in his time, when he says it's time. But yeah guys, I am so excited to decorate this room to make it nice and cozy, especially now for the autumn months. Fairy lights, little like paints and stuff like that. I am actually buzzing to actually make this room feel like home and feel like my home. There's so much that the Lord did for me in that situation. And guess what? Everything happened in 3 days as he said, the way that he said is going to happen. Thank you for every single person that walked with me through this journey. Like, you guys know who you are, and I love you so much, and thank you for standing with me in prayer. And I'm so grateful for every single one of you that knew about this battle, fought in prayers for me, and standed and believed with me when I couldn't. Thank you so much guys. I love you, and I hope that this testimony has encouraged you. If you're in the process of relocating or finding a new place, I pray that you just lean on the Lord and you wait on him, and at the right time, when you've completed your mission where you are, he'll bring you to where you have to be. I love you guys, and I hope that this has encouraged you.